Hey, this is my puzzle game An Earth Divided that I made in 1 week for a recent game jam, and today I'm going to tell you the story of how I made it. I saw there was going to be a Brackey's game jam on Twitter, and it happened to begin just after I was finishing the demo for my game The Morningstar, so I was happy to join. I've done a couple of jams before, which were 48 hours over a weekend. They were a lot of fun, but definitely stressful. I was curious to see what this jam over a whole 1 week period would be like. On Monday I woke up and learned the theme of the jam was Stronger Together. I spent that first day just coming up with ideas. I love Pikmin, so my mind immediately went there, gathering a group of small creatures to accomplish big tasks. A perfect fit for the theme, but never settle for your first idea until you've had more. Then I became fixated on the relationships of nature, humans, and technology, high up there in topics of interest for me. I wondered about how they could be stronger together, using technology in an ethical way without being a detriment to nature. That's how I came to the game concept I spent the rest of the week on. There would be nodes on a grid which you need to connect using tiles based on Tetris pieces. Mountains would block you, but maybe there would be wires you could string over them? Some nodes would grant you more tiles, thus the network would become stronger together. This would be my kind of excuse for the real connection to the jam's theme revealed at the end. More on that in a bit. In the next few days I whipped up some simple sprites in GIMP and started coding. Soon I was dragging tiles down and building a network. As far as implementation, the most interesting part I think is the network itself. Basically, the game keeps track of each tile that contains the network in a list. When placing new unpowered tiles, it checks to make sure one of them will appear next to an already powered tile. And once they are placed down, the game checks every spot adjacent to the network looking for new tiles to make powered. It does this check a couple times a second to animate the power moving in to fill the new sections, until it fails to find one. This could have been made more efficient, but it's a game jam. Allowing yourself to be sloppy and create new things fast is part of the fun. During this time I also added trees and made it so when placing new network tiles they would be sort of consumed in the process of clearing the trees, allowing for you to then place tiles on those spots. I think this really took the puzzles to a new level. I also made a transition for going between levels made of the Tetris shapes. In slow motion you can see it is a solid pattern of them, and I turn them on or off in order, switching levels behind it when it takes up the entire screen. My design philosophy for the puzzles was largely inspired by Jonathan Blow, who has talked about how his game Braid basically designed itself, meaning there is a possibility space of puzzles defined by your game mechanics to explore as opposed to inventing. So I threw spaghetti at the wall to see what stuck, but deciding what sticks is the skillful part. In general, I tried to follow a difficulty curve, and I liked when puzzles allowed for multiple solutions. I also tended to avoid open levels with too many possibilities, until the end at least. In that case, it felt like an appropriate boss-type challenge. About 5 out of 7 days down, and having created most of the puzzles, I made an intro screen to give the game some context. Because I was looking at these tiles floating over the default blue background, I had started to imagine them floating in the sky. So the Earth had been smashed by an asteroid, and now humanity needs to be reconnected. By what? Well, the internet. Why not? And you, a corporate CEO, are in charge of this important matter. I added sounds, a level select screen, an autosave, a cloud effect in the background, and replaced the temporary art. Some early ideas weren't going to make it in. I cut the wires that would go over the mountains, as there were already enough levels in the game with the established elements. Water was another feature I had thought about, but I couldn't think of a reason gameplay-wise for it, and it would have sucked too much time away from the other parts of the game to really make it look presentable. So back to our theme. I had added habitats for both humans and animals for the players to destroy with their networks. I had thought about making the value of them explicit with a point system, but in the end I decided to go with something else. As a CEO, you're typically driven by company performance and thus profits over anything else, so that is mirrored by the destruction of habitats having no impact on your progress in the game. I decided it shouldn't be possible to avoid all habitat destruction, as that wasn't realistic. A problem with some environmentalist messaging, like the cartoon Captain Planet for example, was that it seemed to suggest exploitation of natural resources was always evil and needed to be stopped, with no examples of responsible behavior in this regard. Of course, without exploiting any resources nor encroaching on some animal habitats, there would be no society in the first place. In the end I counted 6 as the minimum number of habitats you could destroy, and 30 the max. So never directly mentioning the habitats beforehand, I created an end screen to tell the player how they did, and a few messages to show based on the care they took. If nothing else, this gives the game some replayability in trying to minimize or even maximize their destruction. But I hope it engages players on a level of morality and mindfulness of how single-minded, profit-driven endeavors are so often harmful to man and nature. It leaves off with a true connection to the jam theme. Life on Earth is stronger together. Environmental destruction hurts us all. In the end I had a lot of fun and found it much calmer than a weekend jam. I think with all projects, managing the scope of it so you can get it done within your time frame is so key. In Eastern Standard Time the jam was due at 6 a.m. Monday morning, but I submitted it almost 10 hours early and went to bed at a normal time. If 48-hour jams are sprints, then for me this was a marathon, which is much closer to a healthy work-life balance. No matter your skill level, I definitely recommend game jams for their fun and opportunities to learn. In the future, I'd love to collaborate with others on one. So that's how I made an Earth Divided. Unfortunately, it does require a mouse, which is the sort of thing that gets missed in these quick projects. A link is in the description to play it on Windows, and you can rate it for the game jam until March 8th. Thank you for watching. I love Pikmin, so my mind immediately went there, gathering a group of small children.